Greetings, everyone. Nathan Nerdarchy here from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, hanging out with some nerds.
Nerdarchy Ryan.
Nerdarchy Dave.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Today we're talking about divine intervention, having faith in your games.
Hey guys, jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get gaming tips as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So we had this interesting conversation that happened while we were on the fantasy cruise. Brian Stillman has like all these great stories from...
Brian Stillman of Eye of the Beholder.
Yes, the Art of D&D documentary coming soon. And other documentaries as well, like Plastic Galaxies. Woo! But he had a lot of great stories from people in the industry and from his own gaming groups. And he was just like a kind of fun guy to hang out with. And he was telling the story about one of the characters was a cleric and would use the augury spell. But the way the DM ran that spell was...
the best way I've ever seen it run or heard it run.
It was really good because... So when that cleric would cast augury, he would get through the view of the gods. So wheel and woe?
Mm-hmm.
So wheel is good, woe is bad, right, clearly. But it's a war god. So what's good to a war god?
Combat.
And what's bad to a war god? You know?
Uneventfulness.
Or a basket full of kittens. Yeah, so everything he would get would be kind of flavored. And, the cleric would cast his augury and, the most amazing thing ever is going to happen today. And the rest of the party is like, oh, fuck, we're all going to die.
Yeah, so it's gearing up because, this god wants carnage and bloodshed. So that's obviously wheel to the perspective. So using the point of view of the god, and we just thought that was a really cool and insightful thing of, augury from the point of view of the god should be where the wheel and woe comes from. Or I think really fun and entertaining sort of way to look at it.
Right. And you could do that for a lot of different gods. Like if you had a god of greed, like if the characters were going to have to spend a lot of money that day, it'd be like, woe be to you, but fate worse than death is upon thee. Yeah. Never mind. It wouldn't even matter that they were going to get these amazing bargains or anything because this god's about greed and hoarding.
Yeah. So and the thing of that too might be instead of using terms will and woe as you said it, I was like, well, profit loss. Like it just looks at it in those two ways and perspectives.
It should be a great day of loss.
Yeah.
So what we're really talking about is how faith of your player characters in the game can actually affect the game itself overall. And faith itself becomes like this other party member. And how many times have we seen in our own games where a certain player is a cleric or priest of a deity, so the other players interact with that character differently based on what they decided their preconceived ideas for their character is of that religion.
And we've had players at the table that are very much against religion. We've had characters at the table who want to actually play that aspect as well, where it's like, no, I don't believe in the gods, or I don't follow the gods. And both of those situations have dictated the way those characters are portrayed and how they're then going to interact with faithful members.
Yeah, it was a little weird. Like, as a little aside, we have one player at our table who is now militant atheist. And it wasn't me, but other than myself. But no, so this person, essentially every single character they made was an atheist. And it's like, well, it's fantasy world. Gods actually come to the planes and crap. So
yeah, they have avatars. They could punch you in the face.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
they're a little...
that's a little more tangible.
Dude, you're not really role-playing if you just play yourself.
Exactly.
So there is a bit of that. But yeah, and that came up in one of our games where... the character was tricked into doing something to honor a deity,
and he was pissed.
Yeah, not the character. The character was too, but the player.
The player was. Oh man, I thought it was.
He threatened to fight the person that did the thing. Essentially,
no. This player was actually a Marine recruiter. And he's like, I will fucking kill you if you ever do anything again. Yeah.
I was like, well, because I was DMing this particular campaign.
That escalated.
I was like, all right, I thought this would be a little bit of a challenge here, or how is this going to wind up happening? And I hadn't really thought about the repercussions of this particular idiosyncrasy of the area and how it would affect this player. And I never in a million years would have thought that wow, this guy's going to have such a big reaction
That he's
over
going
something
to
that happened in the
threaten
game.
violence. Yeah.
I was like, oh,
Now, you
Well,
know,
I should say we should also set up the framework because it's another like sort of depicting of the gods.
Yeah.
Like this was a god of the sea, and the idea was that you would like drop a coin into the sea and maybe like kiss your hand and slap the baseboard of the ship.
you had to pay homage to Maltratus in some way, shape, or form. And the one sailor actually even named his vessel, "Please, Maltratus, don't sink us."
Yeah. Well, and the idea is too, if you didn't do it, like the odds of you having unfavorable weather go up based on that. Which again is the idea of taking a very Greco-Roman like mythos of the gods actively punishing people that dishonor them.
right. Well, even without that, it's just it's an established tradition in this region that before you boarded the ship, you would drop the coin, say a little prayer, and everything would be well and good. And again,
Or your odds were better.
Yeah.
Because it's a fickle ocean god. You know?
yeah, well, and even if whether it's real or not, just the idea that it builds character into your world, and it's based off of a religion and a faith, and or even if you want to call it a superstition at that point, it doesn't really matter. But it adds to the gaming experience, it adds to the world, and it's still faith based. It's still the way the gods are influencing the world, even if nothing really happens, whether they do it or not.
Yeah. Well, that is an interesting sort of point of discussion is like, how active are the gods of your world to like, are they more likely to mess with a vessel that maybe not enough people honored them, or is it kind of like they're a pretty laissez-faire, hands-off sort of situation in regards to what the players and characters do? Are they absent?
Do they even notice?
Are they absent, or are they ever at the very like just behind the veil of things?
I keep like thinking of the old Kevin Sorbo,
Hercules.
Zeus, Hercules.
A legendary journey.
Yeah, the intro when the gods are fickle.
Yeah.
But I've always found like in gameplay that there's always been a lot of really good interactions throughout the years between the cleric characters and the other characters in the party based off of their religion. It's generally something always comes up when you have a cleric in the party, especially if they're role playing the cleric and the faith, and also they might be going out into the world, not just adventuring, but trying to bring their religion and spread it throughout the areas where they go. And that's another thing. You had brought up one of the Underdark game I ran, and Andrew Knapp was in that game, and he was playing a deep gnome cleric with a thievery domain, I believe.
Yeah. I can't remember the deity's name. It was like that sort of hairless mole, giant evil mole deity. I think it was like greed and hoarding was a part of its profile.
Yeah, it's an albino mole.
Mm-hmm.
So he would shake the coin box at anybody, pretty much all the time, and absolutely when they wanted healing.
Yes, if you needed healing, he had a donation box. That was not a suggestion if you wanted to get healed.
It's part of the somatic component for my spells, I promise you.
Yeah, so that was pretty awesome. Like I liked that sort of concept of it all. And so you can look at sort of like quirks of the deity to map onto your character. You could also think about like, well, how does the god feel about sort of when somebody tries to do divine intervention at higher levels, like, and that succeeds? How's the god feel about being bothered? Are they all too happy to help their servitor? Or like, yeah, you owe me a significant one by this, especially if it's like a deity of sort of like wheeling and dealing. Well, like now something of equal value, you're gonna have to perform a specific service for me.
If you even look at the Icewind Dale trilogies, the character Wolfgar, he would sing battle hymns to Tempest before he entered the fight, and during the fight, he's singing the whole time. And that's an example of a character that's not actually a cleric or a priest, but has a faith, and he's portraying that throughout. Yeah, and paladins would be the same way. Another really interesting paladin character was the Mel Odom Threat from the Sea. I think it was a 5-book series, and the 3-book?
I think three.
Okay, it was a trilogy. I thought it was more. But one of the ways that he kind of like spread his religion and was kind of like bringing up another paladin was by training him to be a warrior and training him to fight. And I think the character might have been like a fallen character, and he was trying to get him to believe again. And like he had this whole methodology of making him believe. He kept saying hand and eye, right? And it was just really like about building his skills as a warrior. So once he was able to, he'd be able to believe in himself and his own skill, then it would elevate his ability to believe and bring him back to the fold of that god, which is really like, it's a kind of like a roundabout, interesting way to introduce your faith to someone else.
I feel that having faith in your character, not meaning I believe in him, but having a character that pays homage to one god or another. Most of the D&D mythoses have a solid god-like structure, and they're present in the worlds to some degree. So I don't understand the characters like, no, I don't do the god thing. I don't want to do that. I feel it just doesn't fit. Most, like, if you look back to, the Greek and the Roman, when the gods were considered ever present and they were statues and temples all over the place, people feared and worshiped the gods. And that's kind of the way I see D&D fitting into that.
Now, I do love the concept of somebody else had posted a long time ago this exact term, but the misotheist, the person that's like a hater of the gods, angry at the gods, because maybe something happened and they blame the gods. So the idea of being slightly antagonistic or very antagonistic. Actually, there's, in the early episodes of the show Rome, or maybe not early, like second season or whatever, Titus Pullo is like cursing out the gods, and like the ship's like rocking, and like he's just like, to Zeus's cock, like, and all that stuff. And then, like, meanwhile, Lucius is just like, what the hell? He's like,
chill, man, chill.
You're gonna get us killed.
You're going to get us killed. So that was a historical moment, but sort of those ideas, those dichotomies are really cool and interesting to me as well.
Well, also even like the Conan movie.
Yeah.
When he gives his prayer to Crom, and if not, the hell with you.
Yeah.
But when you have the rich history of the gods in your world, there's always a god that's going to fit to whatever archetype you are playing. Your character is going to fit into somewhere. So it's a way to actually build a little bit more RP into your character, as well as give you some kind of quest or thing to do when you're not off adventuring or what have you. I think it just adds a lot more to the game.
And you could even look at things like when you use inspiration, like it could be like divine inspiration that happens to occur. Like I was thinking, if you were to want to build out, because I had this concept for again a more Greco-Roman world, like because when you read like the Odyssey and the Iliad, like it's gods were actually among men during these fights and when things were happening. And so you could maybe make inspiration mechanics that do a little more than baseline advantage and disadvantage sort of things, to where like maybe they give you extra dice or extra damage dice, and maybe it scales with the level of the characters, because it's like, yeah, a Valkyrie came down and guided your sword hand as you made this perfect arc.
We've had players also have characters where they worship like all the gods, and they carry a holy symbol for each god just in case, and I think it was,
that was done in the Mummy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It was modeled after the Mummy, and he's like pulling out different ones. But that being said, like that would make an interesting scenario in the game for characters that have real faith, like a paladin or a cleric. I mean, like be like where they can have the conversation. Well, it doesn't really work that way. You really have to dedicate yourself to a deity, for that to work. And also the idea of characters that
revere a whole pantheon. Is that where you're going?
No, the opposite.
Oh.
Actually, like they acknowledge, like you have to in a D&D world. I can understand being. I can't really understand atheists because it actually happens in the world all the time.
Yeah.
But you could absolutely be a character who's like, yeah, I understand and believe in the gods, but I choose to not have a faith and I choose not to acknowledge them, and I think they need to stop muddling with the world and what we're doing here and mind their own business.
So I get that point, but atheism and agnostic in a world that's rich with D&D gods, I don't get it.
Like the magic's coming from somewheres. I guess that could be an argument too. Like, what if you had a character that was set out to prove that it's not real? There are no really are there deities?
Essentially, that character in the context of the world would probably be insane. Like, it is kind of how it would be. Like, it would be the conspiracy theorist of that world.
Or maybe he just thinks they're all like archmages.
Yeah.
That have just labeled themselves after their
Well,
favorite
it
thing.
And maybe he's right.
He's right.
Well, it depends too, like how much the gods really manifest themselves in the world. If they're all using conduits, well, it's just a dude with the power. You know, you got a cleric drop in flame strike and blade bearers, well, big deal. You know, Horus the mage can do the same thing. You know, so it's not that big a deal.
So, what do you guys think? How do you handle faith in your games? Got any cool stories you want to share? There's a great spot for that. That's down in the comments. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can put your donation in the box out of our Patreon.
You can also find us over on Instagram.
Or you want to follow funny memes, go to Facebook.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.
Really good because when that cleric would cast augury, he would get through the view of the gods. So wheel and woe? So wheel is good, woe is bad, right? Clearly. But it's a war god. So what's good to a war god?
Combat.
And what's bad to a war god? You know?
Uneventfulness.
Or a basket full of kittens. Yeah, you know, so you know everything he would get would be kind of flavored, and you know the cleric would cast his augury, and you know, oh, the most amazing thing.
Brian Stillman of Eye of the Beholder.
Yes, the Art of D&D documentary coming soon, and other documentaries as well, like Plastic Galaxies. Woo! But he had a lot of great stories from people in the industry and from his own gaming groups, and he was just like a kind of fun guy to hang out with. And he was telling the story about one of the characters was a cleric and would use the augury spell, but the way the DM ran that spell was
The best way I've ever seen it run or heard it run.
it was read like if the characters were going to have to spend a lot of money that day, it'd be like, woe be to you, but fate worse than death is upon thee. You know, never mind. It wouldn't even matter that they were like going to get these amazing bargains or anything, because this god's about greed and hoarding.
Yeah. So and the thing of that too might be instead of using terms will and woe as you said it, I was like, well, profit loss. Like it just looks at it in those two ways and
It
perspectives.
should be a great day of loss.
Yeah.
So, you know, what we're really talking about ever is going to happen today, and the rest of the party is like, oh, fuck, we're all going to die.
Yeah, so it's gearing up because, like, this god wants carnage and bloodshed. So that's obviously wheel to the perspective. So using the point of view of the god, and we just thought that was a really cool and insightful thing of, well, yeah, augury from the point of view of the god should be where the wheel and woe comes from. Or I think really fun and entertaining sort of way to look at it.
Right, and like, you know, you could do that for a lot of different gods. Like if you had a god of greed.
Greetings, everyone. Nate the Nerdarchy here from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, hanging out with some nerds.
Marcus Ryan.
Narcus Dave.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Today we're talking about divine intervention, having faith in your games.
Hey guys, jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get gaming tips as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So we had this interesting conversation that happened while we were on the fantasy cruise. Brian Stillman has like all these great stories.